Most people lose influence not because they are wrong, but because agitation leaks into voice, posture, and timing. Picture a debate where facts are solid, yet delivery fractures. Pitch climbs, words stack too quickly, eyes search the room. Credibility evaporates and frame tilts away. Confrontations are not IQ tests. They are pressure chambers that measure composure under heat. The rule is simple but brutal. Whoever stays steady sets the tempo, and tempo governs interpretation. This episode reframes conflict as a stage to practice presence on command, turning stress into a spotlight for discipline. The promise is practical: train the signal so the substance gets heard. Machiavelli warned that appearances mobilize loyalties faster than truth, so build a calm surface with power underneath. Silence becomes a scalpel to pace emotion. Pauses become punctuation that lets meaning land. Master the first breath, refuse to rush, and make the room adjust to you. That is where control begins. Go. Here is the frame to use in every confrontation. Presence before performance, signal before content, tempo before logic. Audiences judge stability within seconds by scanning pace, pitch, gaze, stillness, and breathing. A shaky delivery makes perfect logic feel doubtful, while a calm cadence lends uncertain claims a sense of reliability. Drill the triad. Slow your words by 20 to 30%. Lower the pitch a touch, keep volume even. Resist the compulsion to fill space. Let sentences land, and keep your gaze steady for a beat after key lines. That microbeat convinces nervous minds that safety is present, and safety unlocks listening. When you refuse to sprint, others mirror your regulation, and the room's pulse sinks to yours. This is not theatrical, it is physiological, exploiting how threat detection hijacks cognition. Reduce visible threat signals to restore bandwidth for reason. Appear controlled to attract cooperation. Cultivate steadiness so content arrives on a paved road. Treat tempo as a weapon and silence as a lever. Fast speech reads as fear, while even pacing marks authority. Underclock delivery on purpose. Pause after decisive statements to let implications multiply in the listener's mind and to buy time for your own. If challenged, hold eye contact. Breathe once through the nose and answer at your pace, not theirs. Control is contagious. One regulated person can normalize a room within a minute. This is power that does not shout. Audiences assume competence before evidence arrives. Facts then land on receptive ground and stick longer, not because they are louder, but because they ride a calm channel. Master one breath at the start. Relax shoulders, anchor feet, and remove rush from your voice. Make the room adjust to you, and notice how decisions tilt toward your framing. Patience may look gentle from outside. Beneath it lies precision that trims noise from the signal. Use small nods to mark shifts, then let stillness carry for 2 counts. Calm. Presence beats performance because audiences decide before arguments fully unfold. They scan pace, pitch, gaze, posture, and breathing in the first breaths, and file a verdict about credibility that is hard to reverse. A rushed voice signals fear. A wobbling tone signals doubt. Eyes that flicker signal avoidance. Each micro-signal primes listeners to discount even solid logic. Reverse that reflex by front-loading presence. Stand or sit with feet grounded, crown tall, shoulders loose. Let the first inhale be slow and silent, then begin 20% slower than your conversational speed. Keep pitch a shade lower and volume consistent, as if lines are laid on rails. Land sentences, then allow a 2 count of clean silence so meaning can expand. That pause acts like bold formatting. It tells the room, this line matters, and their nervous systems mirror the decrease in threat. When threat falls, cognition rises, and attention follows the calmest source available. Use the triad, tempo, timbre, stillness, as a repeatable protocol rather than a mood. Tempo, underclock words so listeners never chase you. If interruption comes, do not accelerate to win the gap. Hold speed to win the frame. Timbre, a slightly lower register reads as certain. It steadies your own physiology while quieting the rooms. Stillness, hands visible and unhurried. No fidgeting with pens or screens, no defensive arm barriers. Stillness broadcasts surplus bandwidth, suggesting nothing here is dangerous. Stitch those together with a gaze rule. Deliver key lines to one place for a full beat, then shift deliberately, never darting. Insert breath commas, micro inhales where others cram filler, turning into intent. The effect compounds. Calm conduct turns into perceived competence. Perceived competence buys time. Time lets ideas unfold. Words then ride on a surface already labeled trustworthy, so even dissent is processed with less friction and more curiosity. Convert this into drillable behavior so it survives heat. Rehearse a 60-second cold open in 3 environments: bright room, echoey hall, noisy call. Start seated and practice the first line with a 2-count pause before and after. Then stand, anchor feet shoulder width and repeat at 70 to 80% of normal pace. Add the gaze pattern, left, center, right, each held for a heartbeat on the close of a sentence. Film once, audit for speed spikes, pitch rises and hand noise, then run it again, correcting only one variable per rep. In live settings, pre-commit to the first 20 seconds, no interruptions, no filler, no apologies for thinking. If a hard question lands, buy clarity with a respectful stall. Give a second to answer that well, then actually take the second. Presence precedes content, and content poured onto presence gains shape. Build the habit in calm hours so it runs on rails during storms. Command the body so the mind follows. Under heat, biology hijacks judgment. Breath climbs into the chest, shoulders creep upward, hands fidget at objects, and the voice thins as speed outruns sense. Reverse the cascade by flipping the first switch. Respiration. Use the 4-4-6 cycle. Inhale through the nose for 4 counts, hold for 4 to let the diaphragm settle, then exhale through the mouth for 6, as if warming glass. Repeat 3 rounds before you speak, or while the other side talks. The longer exhale signals safety to the nervous system and drags the heart rate down where clarity lives. While breathing, unlock the jaw, drop the tongue from the palate, widen the back of the neck and let the shoulders hang heavy, not hunched. This quiets micro-tremors that read as fear. Your goal isn't relaxation, it's readiness. Calm tone, quick access to words, and the ability to choose pace instead of being pulled by it. Build posture as your non-verbal thesis. Standing, feet shoulder width, weight centered over midfoot, knees soft, glutes lightly engaged to anchor. Imagine a thread lifting from the crown while your ribs knit down. This stacks spine over pelvis, so breath expands low and even. Sitting, hips back in the chair, both feet planted, torso tall, forearms resting lightly, or hands open on the table where eyes can see them. Hands visible, beats, hands active. No tapping, pen rolling, phone touching, or hair fixing. Each is a flare that says, "I'm losing the edge." Gaze like a metronome. Hold eye contact for 1 full beat on closures, then shift deliberately, never flicker. When interruption comes, do not speed to keep the floor. Hold cadence and finish the line. Then a measured, "I'll answer that in a moment." You are teaching the room your tempo. The first seconds script the next minutes. Posture is the syllabus that tells them what to expect. Tune the voice last, because it rides on breath and posture. Aim for 70% of your normal pace and a half step lower in pitch. This reads as certainty, steadies your own physiology, and quiets the groups. Remove filler with breath commas, micro inhales where others drop turning absence into intent. End key lines clean, then let 2 seconds of silence do the work, no adjective can. Silence is a boundary that pressures the other side to fill it, often revealing data or concessions you would not have pulled with force. If a spike of anger or panic breaks through, do not fight it with words. Mark the boundary. Give me a second to answer that well. Inhale once, exhale long, and resume at your chosen pace. The message beneath every signal is simple. Nothing here is dangerous. When the body broadcasts safety, the mind regains precision. Control the signals, and the substance finally lands where it can win. Detachment creates clarity, because personalization collapses strategy into reflex. The moment a jab feels like an attack on identity, blood chemistry takes the wheel and turns nuance into noise. Reframe heat as data. A sharp comment is a probe revealing incentives, fears, or status plays. Treat it like a signal to be decoded, not a wound to be defended. Use the observer's lens, Step half a pace back mentally and ask, what outcome matters most right now, and what variable moves it? Replace pride with process. Deploy the clarifying wedge that shifts the fight from people to criteria. What specifically concerns you most? Timeline, risk, or cost? Name the bucket, then sort claims into it. When the argument lives inside criteria, volume drops and information rises. You aren't conceding, you are relocating the battle to terrain where measurement beats emotion. Detachment is not coldness, it is disciplined care for the result instead of the rush of being right. Run the meeting scenario as a drill. Hours in, your proposal hits the table and a colleague slices it publicly. This won't work, we've tried it. Reflex wants a counterpunch. Detachment prescribes a pivot. One nod buys you a breath, then mirror the core. Hearing concern about repeat failure. Follow with a focused question. Is the blocker feasibility, resourcing, or sequencing? This forces specifics. If they surface a real constraint, you win by integrating it. Good catch. If we lock resources in Sprint 2, sequencing resolves. If they float generalities, ask for the test. What evidence would change your mind? Now the room watches you design the path to decision instead of duel for ego. The temperature falls because process took the spotlight. By refusing identity war, you become the steward of shared interests. Detachment does not soften your stance, it hardens your method, which quietly upgrades your authority without raising your voice. Guardrails keep detachment stable under provocation. First, time the pause. When insult arrives, count one inhale before any word leaves your mouth. You will never regret a single breath you took, only the ones you skipped. Second, script 2 bridge lines that buy thinking space without sounding evasive. That's important. Give me a second to answer it well. And, before I respond, let's define the decision rule. Third, separate tone from content in real time. Setting tone aside, the fact pattern says A and B. If that stands, C follows. Fourth, route to the future. What's the next reversible step that tests this cheaply? Each move converts aggression into structure. Over repetitions, people learn that you won't swing at bait. They stop casting it and start bringing evidence. Detachment is a moat for judgment. It protects language from adrenaline, keeps choices aligned with outcomes, and preserves your reputation as the adult in the room, even when the room forgets how to be one. Calmness converts to leverage because noise competes for attention, while steadiness concentrates it. In a heated room, raised voices cancel each other, and the channel saturates. The only clear signal left is the one that refuses to spike. A measured cadence becomes a magnet. Heads tilt, interruptions fade, and questions begin to route toward the quietest center. Authority arrives before agreement. Presence precedes permission. Use this physics to reshape momentum. When exchanges tangle, do not add volume, add structure. 2 minutes to list facts, then 2 to list risks, then choose criteria. A timeline beats a tirade. Sequencing is a steering wheel. Whoever sets the steps sets the slope of outcomes. Replace claims with checkpoints. If metric X is true by Friday, we proceed, if not, pivot. You are not winning by rhetoric, but by designing the path decisions must travel. The calm voice turns chaos into lanes, and lanes turn conflict into movement. Deploy leverage ethically. Frame, filter, and focus. Frame by defining the problem in neutral operational terms that reduce ego friction. We are allocating scarce hours under deadline risk. Filter by agreeing out loud on what evidence counts. Numbers from last sprint velocity, today's burn rate, and owner availability. Focus by proposing a single keystone decision. Do we ship a thinner slice on time or a fuller feature late? Each step lowers temperature while elevating clarity. Participants now argue along rails you laid. With rails in place, use calibrated silence as a clutch. After voicing a criterion, stop for 1 beat longer than comfort. The room will often volunteer the very constraint you needed revealed. Follow with a small nod, then translate talk into tasks. Owner, action, timestamp. The pattern is consistent. Calm, structure, traction. People like the feeling of progress more than the thrill of sparring. Offer progress and they follow the hand that points to it. In personal arenas, leverage appears as relief. With a partner, listen through the first wave, mirror one sentence exactly, and ask a focusing question that seeks solvable specifics. The nervous system on the other side reads validation and begins to downshift. Now, solutions can surface. In family conflict, keep tone level and reduce pronouns, moving from you never to when X happens, Y breaks. So let's try Z for a week. Consistency here is compounding. Become the person who cools rooms, and rooms will pre-cool for you. In public critique, model generosity under pressure. Fair point. If we're wrong, this test will show it in 48 hours. Risk is recast as experiment, saving face for all. Calmness does not surrender edge. It preserves it by protecting timing and word choice. It draws better offers, earns longer turns to speak, and invites allies who are tired of fire. Leverage in practice is simply the privilege to steer. Calm buys that privilege cheaply. Field drill, relationships. The intimate arena tests control more than logic. Use a 3-step sequence. First, absorb the first wave without interrupting, shoulders loose, hands visible. Run the 4-4-6 breath 3 times, steady, kind eye contact. Second, mirror one core sentence verbatim without sarcasm. What hurt most was not getting a reply yesterday. Mirroring lowers defenses and reopens the channel. Third, ask a focusing question that moves from identity to criteria. What must happen in the next 24 hours to improve this concretely? Convert emotion into plan. One minimum action, one short deadline, one agreed check-in. Replace you always with, when X happens, Y breaks. Let's test Z for 1 week. If the other voice escalates, do not compete for volume. Insert a 2-second pause and return to the criterion. Close with a lean operational recap. No moral verdicts. Objective step time. Daily practice builds predictability. Predictability, in turn, rebuilds trust. Field drill work. Hot meetings demand visible process. Open with 2 minutes for facts, 2 for risks. Then we choose by criteria A, B, C. Naming the clock and the rails reduces theatre. Define what counts as evidence. Last sprint velocity, today's burn rate, owner availability, to filter noise. Ambush question? Use the respect bridge. Give a second to answer that well. Breathe, then reply at your pace. Between cut-ins, do not accelerate. Finish the line, jot a note, and route back to the rule. If deadline governs, the thinner slice ships sooner. Translate talk into traction with OAT, owner, action, timestamp. In remote calls, manufacture presence, eye-level camera, quiet frame, hands in view, eyes to lens on closers. End with a 1-page minute, decision, accepted trade-offs, next reversible test. Repeat for 2 weeks, and the team learns to follow structure rather than heat. Conflict turns into cues, and cues turn into delivery. Field drill, a public and hot seat. Audiences read rhythm before content. Start with 1 anchored sentence and a clean pause, then sweep 3 fixed points, left, center, right, to stabilize perception. Hostile questions need a cooling funnel. Please state the core point in 1 sentence. Repeat the question in neutral terms, confirm, then answer with the triad story criterion, next step. If provoked, separate tone from fact. Setting tone aside, the data shows X. If that holds, Y follows. Use silence as a clutch after decisive claims. The pressure of quiet yields information that force would not. For hecklers, set a public rule. 1 at a time, 30 seconds per question. When flow jams, run the microscript. Enter, breath, posture, regulate. Cadence, pause, reframe, people, problem, steer, sequence, close, stability. Finish with an internal mantra on every exhale. Nothing moves me. 10 daily minutes of rehearsal installs automatic responses under heat. Consistency builds an untouchable reputation because people trust patterns more than promises. A single composed moment helps for a day. A chain of composed moments installs a label that walks into rooms before you do. Unshaken. Once that label sticks, pressure tactics lose ROI against you. Colleagues stop trying volume, critics stop baiting, and negotiations start cooler because your presence predicts stability. Guard the compound effect with ruthless discipline, knowing memory is asymmetric. Audiences barely register 100 calm interactions, yet they will remember one spectacular blow-up for years. Treat public escalation as radioactive. Never trade a short burst of victory for a long half-life of distrust. You are not playing for applause in the moment. You are engineering the expectancy curve that dictates how others approach you next time. Build a system that makes calm inevitable. Set a private code you never break under heat. Do not interrupt first. Do not raise volume first. Do not answer while breath is high. Pair the code with red zone alerts, tight jaw, chest breath, tapping fingers that trigger an automatic reset. 4-4-6 breathing, shoulders dropped, eyes steady, voice reduced by one step. Move corrections from public to private. Praise in the open, pressure in the hallway. When someone flares, keep tone neutral and route to criteria, then write the decision rule visibly. So process outranks personality. After any close call, run a 3-minute post-mortem. What spiked? What worked? What line will you use next time? Reputation is choreography. Rehearse it like a role until it becomes character. When others describe you to third parties, they should reach for the same word every time: steady. Practice compounding like an athlete. Schedule weekly pressure reps. One simulated ambush question, one negotiation with artificial time pressure, one relationship repair conversation. Log each rep with the OAT ledger, owner, action, timestamp, and a calmness score from 1 to 10. Improvement you can see is improvement you repeat. Publish your rules to your team so your standard polices the room. We decide by criteria, not volume. We test fast and reverse cheaply. When a slip happens, and one will own it without drama, apologize once, specify the fix, and return to tempo. The fastest way to restore the label is to act like it never left. Over months, doors open earlier, meetings start cooler, and fewer people test your boundaries because the market learns you do not break. Repeat the mantra on the exhale, nothing moves me, and let your history say the rest. Implementation loop. Enter, regulate, reframe, steer, close. Enter with a visible reset that teaches the room the tempo. 1 4-4-6 breath, shoulders released, chin level, hands still and in sight. Regulate by dialing speech to 70%, lowering pitch half a step, and inserting clean 2-count pauses after decisive clauses. Reframe by moving from people to problems and from feelings to criteria. Define success in 1 sentence, list constraints in 3. Steer with sequence, not slogans. Facts, risks, options, decision rule, owner, timeline. Close by stating stability. There is a path. Here are the next 2 reversible steps. The sequence is not ornamental. It is scaffolding that keeps cognition ahead of adrenaline. Run this loop the same way in private conflict, heated meetings, and public Q&A, so repetition becomes muscle memory and presence arrives on cue when pressure rises. Daily micro-drills harden the loop until it survives ambush. Morning. 60 seconds of pace control, reading any paragraph at 70% speed, clean pauses, and 1 deliberate gaze shift per sentence. Midday. 2 reps of the respect bridge on tough prompts. Give a second to answer that well, paired with a single 4-4-6 breath before speaking. Evening. 1 scenario journaled in OAT format, owner, action, timestamp, with a calmness score and a single line to use next time. Add environmental reps. Practice seated and standing, in noise and in quiet, on camera and in a hallway. Pressure is specific, so rehearsal must be varied. Track triggers, jaw tension, chest breath, finger tapping, rising pitch. Each trigger maps to an automatic reset. Exhale, long, lower shoulders, slow syllables. What repeats becomes identity. Identity writes reputation. Reputation sets the temperature before any word is spoken. Closing synthesis. Control signals to control outcomes. Breath governs pulse, posture governs perception, cadence governs interpretation, criteria govern decisions, consistency governs reputation. When rooms heat up, resist the theater of urgency and perform the discipline of sequence. Offer lanes instead of volume, tests instead of boasts, and steps instead of speeches. The result is predictable. Attention flows to stability. Stability earns permission to guide, and guidance converts tension into movement. Anchor with one internal line on every exhale. Nothing moves me, then act in alignment. No first interruptions, no first volume raise, no answers while breath is high. Practice on small frictions, traffic, curt emails, family tone, until the loop runs itself. In time, fewer people test boundaries, more people ask for direction, and decisions travel faster because the room already trusts the rails. If you're ready to take these strategies beyond theory, check the pinned comment. The link I left there is the next step to becoming truly untouchable.